they'll wrap up, though. We'll go for upper 70s and partly sunny for the torchlight, and then some sunshine again around 80 on Sunday. I'm KIRO 7 pinpoint meteorologist Nick Allard.
And right now it is mostly sunny and 74 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Ursula Royteen.
Miss anything? Follow us on Facebook to get caught up. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk. Powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Oh, what a show we have put together for you on this Friday afternoon. I am really glad you are with us. I'm deeply appreciative that you choose to spend some of your afternoon with us, and we are going to make it worth every second of your time. Welcome! Coming to you from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. So at 12:30 this afternoon, right after Ursula's newscast at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk to a Navy commander and the mayor of Oak Harbor about this lawsuit that our Attorney General Bob Ferguson has filed against Naval Air Station Whidbey that could put the island out of business. It is absolutely outrageous what Bob Ferguson will do to get a headline, and wait until you hear the potential impact if they were successful in shutting down Naval Air Station Whidbey. So we'll talk to a Navy commander and the mayor about that at 12:30. At 1:30 this afternoon, King County's Director of Business and Finance is going to come on with us to talk about how they were scammed out of $220,000 by one of the phoniest-looking emails I've ever seen. So we'll talk to them about that. Got lots of other news to get to this afternoon. Let's begin with our Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Top story.
The leftists tell us if some man says he's a woman, we have to believe that, accept that, use those pronouns, and play that game. Now, I think that most transgender people are legit. I really do. And I've never walked in their shoes, but I have no reason not to believe most people who are transgender. But when there is somebody who is a man who is clearly a sick pervert, who claims to be a woman, and the leftists tell us that we're supposed to accept that, and that we're supposed to call him a woman, and that we're going to get sued if we don't. And by the way, there are some who are trying to mandate this legally, that we use preferred pronouns. But again, when it's a man who's just clearly a sick pervert, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play those games. And we have an update now involving a 14-year-old girl from our state. Let me tell you what's going on here. A couple of times this week, I've told you about this man up in Vancouver, BC, who claims to be a woman. Jessica Yaniv is what he calls himself. He says he's a LGBTQ2+ something advocate. He says that he's just a trailblazer. And so what this guy does is he goes into women's waxing salons asking for a Brazilian, which is removing all the, down. But he goes in, and in the latest case that is before a Human Rights Commission right now, the owner of the salon spa, a woman, said, we only treat women. We have no idea how to remove hair from male genitalia. We haven't been trained to do that. And this dude, Jessica Yaniv, in the Human Rights Commission hearing, called the spa owner a neo-Nazi because she wouldn't wax him. And he's done this to many other spas. He's put some of them out of business. So is this just a woman in a man's body who just wants to get the same treatment as any other woman, or is this a male pervert? And the evidence is becoming quite overwhelming that it's the latter. That this is a guy who has come up with a way to get women, he hopes, to touch his genitals in this waxing procedure. So I've told you about that. I've told you about how he was advertising for a all-body swim event, meaning topless or naked, where he wanted 12 to 24-year-old girls and women to come and swim topless or naked. And it specifically said in the invitation, parents and or caregivers not allowed, for the privacy of the girls and young women who he wanted to get a tent. So he wanted to look at naked, topless 12-year-old girls by promoting this event. Now, again, I'm supposed to call him or her. I'm supposed to use different pronouns, but I'm not going to be cowed into submission. And why am I making this the top story when I've already talked about all of this earlier this week? Because we are just finding out this afternoon that a girl here in Washington, when she was 14 years old, she got in a text exchange with this dude. And what he wrote to her is so disturbing. The girl is now 20 years old here in our state. She's giving her name. She's put her name out there. Her name's Jessica Rumpel. She's been very public about what she wants people to know about this guy. And I'll tell you the latest in just a second. This dude, Jessica Yanez, he went on the Alex Jones show about trying to force women to touch his genitals.
Chris Cuomo said a few years ago, he said like 12-year-old girls should be ready to have a transgender man as a woman in the shower, and if they see his genitals, they shouldn't get upset. I don't think that's reasonable.
I do, actually, because, people want to start segregating sex. And from what I've seen,
I don't think the average women particularly want to be around a bunch of
Yes and no.
Okay, so he sounds like a lovely woman, doesn't he? And he says, "No, you can't tell me what my gender is. In fact, you can't even tell me how old I am."
We cannot be going around and policing gender or policing people by their age.
By their age. No, we don't want to tell somebody who feels like they're 72 and want to collect full Social Security, but they're actually 24. We can't tell them they're not 72. And Alex Jones said, well, if my wife ran one of these businesses, I wouldn't want her having to wax you.
Listen, I don't want my wife touching other men's genitals.
No, not about the genitals.
What if my wife did bikini waxes?
Yeah.
Okay, and what if she did that, and then a dude, a man comes in who says he's a woman, and then he wants my wife to polish his.
And in this day and age, with the BC Human Rights Code and the Canadian Human Rights Code, if someone identifies as a woman, they have to receive those gender affirming care services. That's the law.
I don't think this is going to work out.
If I say I'm a woman, then I'm a woman, and that's why they have to wax me. Okay, let me tell you the new information that we have this afternoon involving this girl from our state who was 14 years old when this guy, Jessica Yanez, he was still going by Jonathan at the time. But he got into text messages, and she did screen grabs of the text exchange with him. And he wrote to the then 14-year-old girl, I'm going to send you something on Ask. Check your Ask. And then she saw it, and she said, that's weird as bleep. He said, come on. And she said, I ain't doing that. What she tells us that he requested of her is he asked her to send him a used pad. And he wrote back to her, please, for me. And the 14-year-old girl said, no, it's not even clean anymore. He wrote, okay, take a pic of the clean one, LOL. She said, what for? He said, I just want to see, okay? And she said, no. And then he said, look at ask, please, smiley face. And she said, no, what the bleep is wrong with you? And then he sent a frowny face and said, I'm just curious. In other messages with underage girls, he continually would text them and he asked a 14-year-old girl named Ashley to cyberbully a 20-year-old girl. He said that in repeated texting with 14-year-old girls, he asked them how he can ask underage girls to borrow a tampon or pad. And some of the girls, and he was posing as a friend or a manager of some girl super band that I've never heard of. And so these 14-year-old girls were really excited because they thought that he was actually associated with this girl group that they loved. And he wasn't. But it was his way to converse with them about, how do I ask other underage girls for tampons and pads? Okay, so again, now the left would tell us that we have to respect. This guy says he's a woman, and we've got to call him female pronouns, and we have to just believe it. But you want to have topless swims with 12-year-old girls. You want to force women against their will to touch your male genitals. You're conversing with 14-year-old girls about sending him their dirty hygiene products and how he can talk to 13, 14-year-old girls about borrowing tampons and all of that. The left says we've got to respect his right, her right to be a she. The left is insane when it comes to dudes like this. Up next in the Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Update.
If you're listening to our show yesterday, we were telling you about a great exclusive that Lindsay Sheldon at KIRO 7 News had about King County getting scammed. It was like one of those Nigerian prince phishing emails that you got when you first got email 15 years ago. But this was sent to King County Finance, supposedly from one of their vendors, and they said, hey, we're changing our bank routing number, and we want you to send the money to this number now. And they scammed King County out of $220,000. And Lindsay Sheldon from KIRO 7 News, she joins us here on KIRO Radio. Lindsay, I was amazed at almost every aspect of this story as I was watching it on your news.
Well, thanks for watching it, Dori. I was surprised myself by the email because we all get emails like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it says, hi, dear, or good day.
Right.
It doesn't use your name, and it has a bunch of errors in it, and you know immediately, you're like, this does not look right at all.
Well, this one in particular, it did not seem as though the writer, that English was their first language. They had commas where periods should be, vice versa. They had lowercase letters at the beginning of sentences. I mean, it was a mess. So tell me what you know about this. So this went to an employee who pays bills for King County?
Yeah, it went to, as I understand it, an employee in accounts payable who basically handles these types of, changes or handles these types of things to make sure that vendors get paid. Because it was supposed to go to WISE, which is this great organization that's had an agreement with King County for decades, 30 years, the executive director told me, and trains people with developmental or intellectual disabilities to work at county nonprofits. So this is a vendor very well known to King County. That's where the money was supposed to be going.
Right. Okay, and so the King County employee who received the email did not pick up the phone, call WISE, didn't do any kind of independent verification of this very weirdly worded and grammatical email?
Everything I understand says no, because they're putting that in as a requirement now moving forward. The records I obtained show, and King County verified this, is that employee responded by saying, okay, fill out this new banking authorization form, and sent them the form.
And then by the time they realized they were being scammed, they called the FBI, and the FBI said what?
And it was Wise that called it out.
Okay.
Wise emailed them and reached out and said, hey, where's our money?
Yeah.
You're not usually late. So where's the money? And that's how King County realized that there was a mistake.
And so the FBI said whoever the scammer was, the money's gone, the trace of them is gone, nothing we can do about it?
Right. And there were some clawbacks that King County was able to do. So there was, the bank itself, their bank, able to claw back a little bit from SunTrust. So they got about $67,000 that way. But the rest of the money was basically like, okay, this is going to have to be covered in insurance because, the FBI was saying the longer after the scam happens, the tougher it is to find these people, and we can't track these people down, which is often the case, right?
Okay, and so that's part A of what I was so incredulous about. Part B was you talked to the director of finance for King County, a guy named Ken Guy, and he told you this wasn't anybody's fault. And I almost fell off my chair when I heard that, Lindsay.
I think and I know you may be talking to him or someone else may be talking with him later today.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have him on my show later today. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he was trying to say he did say we didn't have the controls in place. And by that, I think he was trying to say we didn't give them enough training on this. We didn't have enough backups or checks and balances to cover it in the case of an employee making a mistake.
But Lindsay, my daughters were about 13 when they've got their first phone. And I think the first conversation my wife and I had with them was, okay, this is what phishing is. This is how these things are worded. Don't ever open attachments. Don't ever click on these things. Don't ever respond. My girls knew that at age 13. I'm trying to figure out how a King County employee does not know that, and they're in charge of hundreds of thousands. I mean, in just this one case, hundreds of thousands. So they're probably in charge of millions of dollars, and they didn't know that. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
It's very odd because when you get anything, right, that's coming to you and saying, I need to change banking information or I need to change, very, very important information,
yes,
you would think that would be, a red flag would go up and say, let me just double check this.
Right.
And then when there's a bunch of errors, when they don't use your name, all of those are red flags. Now, the one thing I will say is the email itself did look exactly like that person's real email. However, if you have a long-standing relationship with a vendor like this, especially, why don't you just pick up the phone and call them?
Yeah, exactly. Did you make any attempt to find out who the employee was who made this huge mistake?
I did see that in records. However, Dori, I didn't think there was a reason for me to put that employee's name out, but I did see it in records.
Do you know if they were punished at all?
When I asked Ken Guy, and you will have an opportunity, obviously, he, again, quickly said this was not the fault of any individual employee. So he reiterated that.
Okay.
So,
do you one last, do you by any chance know how much that employee makes?
I don't, Dori.
Okay. Yeah, I got to find that out. All right. Lindsay, It was a great story. I loved it and appreciate you being on top of it, and I'm glad you came on to talk to me today.
Always like to keep track of those taxpayer dollars, Dori.
Yes, indeed. Love it. Okay, thanks, Lindsay.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Okay, Lindsay Sheldon, KIRO 7 News, and you should go watch the story if you haven't already. They have it up on their website at KIRO7.com. Up next in the big lead.
The Big Lead. I sense a Dori rant coming on.
I was on vacation a couple weeks ago when Attorney General Fergie said he's going to sue the United States Navy.
The Navy needs to look before it leaps. They did not do that here.
How will this wipe out Oak Harbor and Whidbey Island? We're going to talk to the mayor up there and a Navy commander next. That is your big lead for today.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Ursula's going to check the news, and then we'll take you up to Whidbey Island. This ridiculous Attorney General lawsuit against the United States Navy is next.